Good afternoon. Let's try it again. Good afternoon. Excellent. My name is Mark Binder. I am a writer. I write books. I'm a storyteller. I tell stories. And today we're going to have fun. It's summertime, and it's the perfect time to tell some fun stories. I am going to start with a story that has a little bit of school in it, but it's a small part. This is the story of how it ate my sister. When I was a kid, I had an older sister. Her name is Ellen. She's 2 years older than me. Does anybody have an older sister? How about a younger brother? Younger sister. Older brother. Anybody an only child? Okay, so for those of you who are only children, this is what it's like when you have brothers and sisters. You kind of love each other, but most of the time you can't stand each other, right? They make you crazy. They call you names, they take your stuff, they break your stuff. And my sister Ellen, she used to do the worst things to me. But the thing that made me nuts over and over again was every morning, the first thing that I have to do, and I don't know about you, is I use the bathroom, right? So you get up, and if you go into my house, you go up the stairs. My room is on the left, my parents' room is on the right, Ellen's room is on the left, and at the end of the hall is the bathroom. And my mom had just put in this brand new shag carpeting, which none of you kids know what it is. Shag carpeting, it looks a lot like grass. Anyway, so I'd get up and I'd go down the hall to the bathroom, and it didn't matter how early I was or how quiet I was or how quick I was. I'd go down the hall to the bathroom, and just before I'd get to the bathroom, the door to Ellen's room would pop open. She'd jump in the bathroom. She'd slam the door in my face. I'd be like, Ellen, go away, you creep. Come on, Ellen, I was here first. No, you're not, because I'm inside, you're not, so there. And she'd be in there for like a week. I don't know what it takes girls so long in the bathroom. Me, I'm in, out, and done. But I get tired of it, and I'd start banging on the door, and as soon as I'd start banging on the door, my dad would come out and be like, what's going on around here? And as soon as she heard his voice, she'd come out and go, Daddy, I don't know what his problem is. Good morning. And she'd get away with it every single time. It made me crazy. So I decided I was going to get revenge. Now, we had a garden in the backyard, and my mom was into organic farming before anybody knew what it was, and she didn't like to use pesticides, and the garden was infested with slugs. Yeah, if you don't know what a slug is, it's basically a snail without a shell. The Latin name for a slug is terrestrial gastropod mollusk, which translates as one-footed land clam. Anyway, the garden was infested with slugs. My mom told me I could do whatever I wanted with the slugs, as long as I got them out of the garden. So I went out at night, and I collected this big jar full of slugs. Slugs love to come out at night. They need a lot of water, and there's a lot of moisture at night. So the next morning, I went downstairs. I went into the kitchen, and I took one of the slugs, and I dropped it right into her juice glass. Bloop. And then I filled the cereal bowl to the top with slugs. And I sat down, I covered up with a napkin, and I sat down to read the newspaper. Now, I love to read the newspaper for two reasons. First of all, you can learn a lot. Second of all, you can hide behind it. So I'm sitting there, I'm reading the newspaper, and Ellen comes downstairs. Morning, Mom. She sits down. She picks up her juice glass. What? Oh, yeah, can we go to the mall? Yeah, no, I really want to get that red dress. Mom, I want the red... Mom, I want the red dress. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh, disgusting. She sat down again. She lifted the napkin off the bowl and saw the slugs. Oh my gosh! You are disgusting! Get away from me! Get away from me! So that year we had a science fair in our school. I don't know if you guys have a science fair in your school. This is how it worked. You had to come up with a scientific theory, and you had to have an experiment that proved or disproved that theory. You had to collect data and make a chart and all that stuff. I decided I was going to use the slugs. I was going to take each slug. I was going to measure how long it was. I was going to put it on a scale and weigh it. And I was going to take a tablespoon of salt and dump it on top of the slug and time how long it took the slug to melt down. I don't know if you've ever done this, but if you put salt on a slug, it looks like it's an acidic effect, but it's not. It dries the slug's skin out, and the inside of the slug comes bubbling up, and it turns into this puddle of slime. It's really cool, kind of gross. Really cool, kind of gross. Anyway, my theory because it was a science fair project, my theory was that the bigger the slug, the longer it would take to melt down, right? That makes sense. So I was melting the slugs, I was timing, I was taking pictures, and Ellen walks in my room, she's like, "You are disgusting." Yeah. "Did you read the science fair manual?" "Yeah." "No, you did not." "Yes, I did." "No, you did not." "Did you read rule number 74? "Yeah." "No, you did not. Rule 74 says no cruelty to animals." "It's a slug. It's still an animal." "Mom said I could do whatever I wanted with the slugs." "Rule 74 says you can't in the science fair. Your project is illegal." Huh. And off she went. She just wrecked my science fair project. And I was trying to figure out what to do because it was mandatory. You had to participate. And I was reading the paper. I love reading the paper because you learn all sorts of cool stuff. And I read about this chemical called RBGH, recombinant bovine growth hormone. It's a genetically modified chemical. They give it to cows, and it makes the cows get bigger and fatter faster, and they make more milk. It's cool. It works. But the problem is that some of that chemical can get into milk, and kids drink it, and nobody knows what it does to kids. So I thought, well, if we don't know what it does to kids, we don't know what it does to slugs either, right? So I took a bottle cap and I filled it up with milk and I put the slug right next to it. Turns out slugs don't like to drink milk. They need a lot of water. They have this kind of fatal attraction to beer, so if you want to kill slugs, you put a saucer full of beer in your backyard and you'll have dead slugs in the morning, which tells you a little bit about beer. But they don't like to drink milk. And the science fair is coming up, and it's mandatory, and I have to figure out what to do. And I'm trying to think, well, what would my favorite scientist do? Now, I don't know about you if you have a favorite scientist. My school kids have all kinds of favorites. There's George Washington Carver and Marie Curie and Albert Einstein and Stephen J. Hawking, but my favorite scientist is Dr. Frankenstein. Yeah. So I took a battery and a couple of wires, and I hooked the wires up to the battery, and I zapped the slug. Bzzz. It sucked the milk right in. It was the coolest thing I ever saw. And I went to bed. And the next morning, the slug had grown from 1 inch to 2 inches. Cool. I got some more milk and another battery. I zapped the slug. Bzzz. It sucked the milk right in. I went to bed. The next morning, the slug grew from 2 inches to 4 inches. It doubled in size. Awesome. I got a half a cup of milk and a bigger battery. I zapped the slug. Bzzz. It sucked that milk right in. The next morning, the slug grew from 4 inches to 16 inches. Exponential growth. I picked it up. It was like holding this warm, wet tube sock made out of Jell-O. Hey, Ellen, come into my room. Have you seen my science fair project lately? She walked in my room and I shoved it right in her face and went, ah! She went, oh my God! She took off running. I chased her around and said, ah, get away from me, get away from me, get away from me! Ah! So that evening, after everybody else had gone to bed, I went up to the attic. We had this big cylindrical thing we used to feed the cats water when we went on vacation. I went down to the kitchen. I got 2 gallons of milk out of the refrigerator, filled the cylinder to the top with the milk, put the slug right next to it, and plugged the slug right into the wall socket. It sucked that milk right in. I went to bed, and the next morning that slug was gone. At first I thought maybe it exploded. You know, I looked up on the ceiling, but there was nothing dripping off the ceiling. So I got out of bed and ooh, there's this trail of slug slime leading out of my bedroom. It took a left on the shag carpeting. It was going down the hall to the bathroom because slugs need a lot of water. So I was going down the hall to the bathroom, and I was just about to go into the bathroom, and the door to Ellen's room pops open. She jumps in the bathroom and slams the door in my face. I'm like, Ellen, go away, you creep. Ellen. Ellen, is there something in there with you? What? Ellen, is there something big and slimy and ugly in there with you? You mean like your face? Come on, Ellen, have you seen my science fair project lately? No, leave me alone. And I was trying to figure out where it had gone because it was too big for the toilet. It was too big for the sink. It was in the shower. Ellen, what? Don't look in the shower. What? Ellen, whatever you do, don't look in the shower. And I stood back because I knew she was going to come tearing out of there at any second. And I waited, and I waited, and then I heard, Ellen? Ellen unlocked the door. I thought fast. I ran to my room and I grabbed my screwdriver. I ran back down the hall. I popped open the lock and I opened the door. And there was the biggest slug you have ever seen. It had eye stalks the size of my arms. And inside was my sister, Ellen. It was digesting her. I thought fast. I ran down the hall, downstairs into the kitchen, grabbed the salt shaker off the kitchen table. Back up the stairs, down the hall, I unscrewed the top of that salt shaker, and I threw the salt at the slug. The salt hit the slug right between the eye stalks, psss, and it made the slug mad. Now, when slugs are really little, you can't hear them make any noise. They actually don't have vocal cords, but when they get big and angry, they sound like this. And it charged. Yeah, big slugs move really slowly. I had plenty of time. I ran down the hall, downstairs, outside, opened the garage door, and got the big bucket of rock salt my dad kept for the driveway in the winter. Closed the garage door, ran back inside, up the stairs, down the hall, took the bucket of rock salt, threw the salt at the slug. The salt hit the slug, and the slug started to melt. And this wave of warm slug slime went oozing over my toes. And standing in the middle of the bathroom with slug slime dripping off of her fingers and slug snot coming out of her nose and slug guts coming out of her mouth was my sister, Ellen. My dad was like, "What's going on around here?" My mom's like, "Oh no, my new shag carpeting." And I got in so much trouble. I was grounded for a month. The charge was assault and battery. And my mom got on the phone to the milk company. They changed the formula. So don't try this at home. It doesn't work anymore. Don't try it at home. When I brought my science fair project in, they said that I'd faked it. They said I'd just taken a camera and held it closer to a little slug because science projects have to be reproducible, and it didn't work anymore, so I got an F. But one good thing did come out of it. In the morning, when I get up and go down the hall to the bathroom, it didn't matter if Ellen was in there or not. All I had to do was knock on the door and say, "Hey, Ellen, have you seen my science fair project lately?" And boom, phew, she'd be out of there like a shot. And that's the story of how it ate my sister. Thank you.